as the years go by, getting a TV is getting more and more difficult, especially as all of the technology gets better and cheaper at the same time. I know this from firsthand experience because last year I debated for about a month what TV I should get for my living room, and even though I did decide to go with an LG OLED, I'm very happy with that selection. This year I decided to go with a mini LED TV, something from Hisense that is going to be kind of in the same ballpark in terms of where it sits on the lineup, and I got the Hisense U7. Now the Hisense U7 is going to be kind of the middle child of Hisense lineup. You have the U6 under it and the U8 above it. That's going to be kind of the flagship model. That's the best of the best that Hisense offers from their U series of TVs. And all three models actually have the mini LED technology, which is really great, especially if you're looking for a cheap mini LED TV. I think the U6 is a great option. I saw all three of them at the store kind of right next to one another, and you couldn't really tell a difference between all three of them, especially when it comes between the U6 and the U7. The difference is very minimal. Maybe if you want a TV for a very bright room, you want to kind of go the step above, but if you're just looking for a TV to just watch content, the U6 is a great option. But if you are looking to do something more than just content consumption on the TV, I do recommend that you go the step above and that you go for the Hisense U7 instead, because similar to the LG B series OLED TVs, the Hisense U7 does bring the right balance of features to price ratio. The Hisense U7 comes in at a couple $100 more than the U6. Regularly, it'll go for $500 to $550. You can probably get it for under $500 if you go open box, used, or you just find a great deal. And I think at that price, this TV for the 55-inch is a great price. And with that great price, you do get that great screen, but at the same time, you get a build quality that's going to remind me of my LG 5K back there. Very plasticky. But to me, when it comes to the build quality, it can be all about perspective. Having a plastic build doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad build. It just means it is going to feel cheaper than something made from a different material. And when it does come to the design of the TV, that is a little more subjective than the build quality. And I personally don't really mind the way this U7 looks. It does come with a somewhat bezel-less design. Three of the sides don't really have a bezel. It does have a chin down at the bottom that houses some of the sensors, as well as a mic on and off button that we'll talk about later in the software section. And another design aspect of this TV is going to be more because of the mini LED technology it uses, and it is going to be a thicker TV or a thicker screen almost than something like an LG OLED. Now, I don't know about you guys, again, it's very subjective, but to me, an LG OLED screen that's very thin does make it seem a little more fragile. I recently had to move my TV because we rearranged the living room, and having to pick it up by the screen, as you guys can see by the fingerprints here, it was a little kind of nerve-wracking, not knowing whether that was going to break the TV. Not that we were pinching the screen, but at the same time, just having that super thin display does make it a little bit more difficult to move because you can't really tell, or you don't really have anywhere to grab it other than from the bottom and then kind of lean it back. And if you aren't planning on wall mounting your TV like I did, it does come with a pair of legs that you can put on the TV. It isn't really adjustable in terms of width. That's only going to be for the higher end TVs, or I guess the larger models. But this TV does have a pair of legs that honestly, to me, make it feel a little more plasticky, a little more cheap. I really like the LG OLED platform base that it uses. I feel like it adds stability to the TV. That way it doesn't topple over, but I feel like that's just me. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Do you prefer a platform base or for the TV to have legs if you aren't wall mounting it on the wall? And if you are enjoying this video, make sure you guys get subscribed, because I will be posting more videos about the LG U7 as well as other tech that you can upgrade your workstation or your home office. And then when it does come to the connectivity of the U7, you do get 4 different HDMI ports. 2 of them are going to be up to 144 Hertz. This means that it does support your console to go up to 120 Hertz and play those games with that 4K 120 Hertz display. And you also get 2 USB ports. You get an optical port, you get a headphone jack, and an Ethernet port to hook up the Vita software via Ethernet if you want a faster connection. But you also have Wi-Fi if you would rather use that instead. Now, the optical port is in case you want to hook up speakers, which I recommend that you use the optical port instead of the HDMI eARC if you have multiple consoles or you have a PC and a console that you want to hook up to this TV. And the HDMI port selection is honestly really great for most people. I personally use it for my PS5, Nintendo Switch, and an Apple TV. So these are plenty enough. But if you do want more than just 2 fast ports, I do recommend that you go for something like an LG C series or for the LG G series, any of those, because the U7 and even the U8 from Hisense only have 2 ports that are fast ports. Even TCL's mini LED TVs, the QM8, they only have 2 fast ports. So if you do need to connect more than 2 consoles, or you want more than 2 fast ports for a PC and a couple of consoles, then I do recommend that you go for something else instead. But when it comes to the screen of this TV is honestly really great. The mini LED, like I said, it's very great tech, and the fact that it came down to something under $500, I think that's really great, especially if you go for something like a U6 series that's going to have that same technology. It's not going to get as bright and it's not going to have those fast ports, but it's still going to have that display so you can still use or watch all of your shows on that TV and still have a mini LED screen. And if you guys already have a desk setup, kind of to put this into perspective, another screen that has the mini LED technology is the Apple Pro XDR display, and that's a $5,000 display just for the screen. And even Apple's MacBooks, they also use mini LED technology, which honestly, it's not going to be apples to apples because the different technology and software that is used on both of those screens is going to be a little bit different, but the display itself does use a mini LED screen. And here is a comparison of what a bloom test looks like on the MacBook versus this TV. And as you guys can see, it's kind of comparable. It's not really that bad on either screen, and it is showing true blacks on the Hisense TV as well as on the MacBook. The only thing that this TV also has that's different from the MacBook or the LG 5K display is that the U7 does have a matte screen. This is going to be really great if you have a window or some lights on the other side of the TV because it brings reflections down, and anything that's going to be opposite of the TV, it won't kind of reflect that back. So any show you're watching, it won't cause any distractions. Another thing to keep in mind about the U7 is that the viewing angles aren't going to be that great either. This is because it is still an LED TV. So whenever you go off axis to the left or to the right, it is going to show a little bit more of that backlight bleed, and the colors are going to get a little bit more washed out. But personally, I don't really think a lot of people are looking at their TV from the side unless you have a really small living room or a really small bedroom where you kind of have to put another seat to the side. That person isn't going to have as great of an experience as a person watching it head on. Now, even though a lot of people do like the matte screen on TVs or really any other screen, I personally am not a fan of it. Coming from something like the LG 5K or my MacBook screen or my phones, all of those have a glass screen that's very reflective, which could suck in some instances because it is going to reflect anything across from the other side of the screen. But at the same time, it also is a lot more vibrant because the matte screen does kind of bring down that vibrancy and it kind of disperses the light a different way. And then the next complaint I have about the U7 is going to be the software that comes with the TV just flat out sucks. And this isn't going to be a knock on Hisense specifically. Some other TVs also have this kind of fault where the onboard software is going to be very buggy and very laggy. They just kind of put it out there so that you can still watch your shows as soon as you get the TV. But the first step I recommend is to get a third-party media player that you can hook up to the TV, and that's going to increase your experience a lot better. I personally like the Apple TV. I feel like it's very snappy and more snappy in my experience from a Roku or a Fire TV or Google TV. So I stick with Apple, especially because of the iPhone. The ecosystem just works so seamlessly, but you can always go with any of the other ones. The newer, the better, because the newer ones are going to have the faster chip and they're going to work better at being more speedy and more responsive. And something else to keep in mind is going to be a little bit more on the side of privacy concerns when it comes to using the onboard software that comes with any of these TVs. And that's going to be that a lot of them will sell your information. They're going to be recording what you're saying, and they do play this off as being a feature, which again, I guess if you really like having that feature turned on, getting those personalized ads, getting those recommendations for shows to watch, you can leave all of that on and just be completely fine. Usually by default, they all come on. Even this Hisense, it does have that microphone button on the chin, and it does come with the microphone automatically on, and all of these other settings on as well. So I do recommend that if you don't want any of that to be kind of part of the problem, go in there, turn everything off. Maybe don't even connect the TV to Wi-Fi if you're not going to be using the onboard software. If you're just going to be using something like an Apple TV or Roku or whatever, I recommend that you don't even turn on the Wi-Fi. That way the TV can't even connect to the internet and send that information back to the brand. So when it does come to alternatives, if you're looking for something with great software, really none of them are going to have it. I've seen TCL Roku and Vizio software at work, and honestly it's just the same as LG or Hisense. They're both very laggy, they take forever to load, and they do come with something like AirPlay, which I use at work, but sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So really, if you're looking for great software, I recommend you go with a third-party accessory instead that you can just hook up to the TV. But if you're looking for alternatives in terms of the display and kind of the screen, really TCL is going to be the only other brand that's in the same ballpark for price and still having those same features. Now for TCL, only the QM8 is truly mini LED. All the other ones aren't really up there yet. And then the Hisense, the reason I went with it was because there are two ports that are 144 Hertz rather than one of them being limited at 120. Now, even though I'm not using the 144 Hertz myself, it is nice to know that that's there in case in the future I ever do get a PC that I can kind of max out at that 144. But if you are looking for other brands like Samsung, Sony, or LG, they also have their mini LED TVs that look almost the same as a Hisense, but all of them are going to be more expensive. They have the same features, HDMI ports that are 2.1, 120 Hertz. They have the mini LED TVs. They come with their own onboard software. But honestly, if you're looking for a mini LED TV, I recommend going for Hisense or TCL, trying it out, check it out in the store. They all look basically the same, including with the Samsung, Sonys, and LGs. But those other three brands are going to be more expensive. For a 55-inch TV right now, all of those other ones cost around $1,000, whereas the Hisense 55 right now that's not on sale, again, it's around that $500 to $550 price point. If you haven't had good luck with Hisense or TCL, or you just don't want to go with the Chinese brand, you want to stick to the top three, I would even recommend that instead you upgrade instead to OLED, because you're already in the ballpark for paying over $1,000 for a TV. The 55-inch B3 OLED costs about $1,200. It'll even drop to right at $999 or $1,000 during the sales. So if you can wait another 2 to 3 weeks, just go with an LG OLED instead if you're looking at that price point. But at this price point, you can't go wrong with Hisense. Just make sure you do get an Apple TV, because yeah, that Vita or Vita software that's on board definitely sucks. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you guys like this video. If you enjoyed the content, click here to watch another one of my videos, and I will catch you guys on the next one.